So finally, the Quiet India movement was suppressed by the various repressive measures by the British government. Various persons were imprisoned. Various nationalist leaders of Indian National Congress, they were also put into prison. They were arrested. Various students were arrested. In fact, many of them got killed also due to the various repressive measures of the British Indian government. Now, after the suppression of Quiet India movement, that's from 1943 up to 1947. This phase, these years are marked by the continuous conflict, the continuous conflict, the continuous confrontation. This conflict and confrontation, it was between Indian National Congress and Muslim League. It was that, it was the period during which Muslim League continuously put efforts to partition this country. Muslim League's main demand during all these years was the demand for Pakistan. Muslim League had already convened a Lahore session. At Lahore session, they passed the Pakistan resolution. That Lahore session was convened in 1914. So before, in fact, before this Quit India movement in 1940, Muslim League members assembled at Lahore, and therein they passed the resolution upon the Pakistan. They passed the Pakistan resolution. They passed the famous two-nation theory. Two-nation theory. This two-nation theory was given by Muhammad Ali Jinnah, who was there at Lahore in 1940. By the meaning of this two-nation theory, he wanted to have his own country, which will be the Muslim majority country, that, in those areas which are under the present day Pakistan and those areas which are under the present day Bangladesh. He was having the continuous demand, and he wanted, he was ready to go up to any extent to, to take that Pakistan out of India, to make his own sovereign nation. Okay, so we have to study what kind of these confrontations were there from 1943 up to 1947. So then we will move on towards the ultimate independence and the partition of this country in 1947. See, so there was a deadlock. Okay, you can see that there was a deadlock. There was a deadlock between the Muslim League and the Indian National Congress. अब मेन मोटिव तो मुस्लिम लीग का ये था कि मुझे पाकिस्तान चाहिए, but this deadlock was centered over various aspects as to what kind of government there must be, what kind of membership must be there in the Viceroy's Executive Council. इंटरिम गवर्नमेंट अगर बनेगी उसमें कौन कौन मेंबर बनेगा, इलेक्शंस अगर होंगे तो उसमें क्या क्या बनेगा, कंस्टिट्यूट असेंबली अगर बनेगी तो उसमें कौन कौन मेंबर बनेगा. So all kind of confrontations and excuses were put forward by the Muslim League, but their main intention, main motive was to have this demand, have this Pakistan, all these years. It was this Pakistan that they tried to carve out. So all these excuses were put forward by Muslim League in one form or the other form. But his main intention was, as I told you, it was to have this Pakistan. Okay, he was adamant upon that Pakistan. As far as the evolution of this two-nation theory is concerned, this evolution can be traced back. It can be traced in 1933, 1932 in fact, when third roundtable conference was convened. There the student of Cambridge University, Chaudhry Rahmat Ali, put forward a demand for Pakistan, but that was, in the ambiguous manner. Clearly उसने पाकिस्तान तो नहीं बताया था, but he gave that idea. In fact, then again this Allama Iqbal, the national poet of Pakistan, he also gave some idea towards this demand for Pakistan, but those ideas were only on the paper. The concrete form to that two-nation theory was given by Muslim League headed by Muhammad Ali Jinnah. It was only from the 1940 onwards that they concretized their demand for this Pakistan. Okay, now see, So due to this demand of Pakistan, there, as I told you, there was a deadlock. So in order to break this deadlock, Indian National Congress members made various efforts. For example, one effort is what is known as the Desai Liaquat Pact. No, before that there is Raja Gopalachari formula. Okay, Raja Gopalachari. उसके बाद हम Desai Liaquat Pact आएगा. Raja Gopalachari formula. So see, Raja Gopalachari, Chakravarti Raja Gopalachari, who was the close associate of Gandhi, he put forward a solution to break this deadlock, to bring the Muslim League, into something into which both will present a common demand. तो ऐसे जो है, see, Raja Gopalachari came forward. He was assisted by Mahatma Gandhi. In fact, Mahatma Gandhi accepted his formula. What was this formula? What he proposed under the various provisions of Raja Gopalachari formula? He told. He provided that Muslim League, you can write down that Muslim League will accept the Congress's fight for freedom. Muslim League will endorse, okay? Muslim League should endorse the fight into which the Congress was involved. Muslim League will endorse the Congress demand for freedom, और उसको जो है कोई obstruction, Muslim League will not cause any obstruction on that way. It will cooperate with the Congress. Okay, then if that freedom is granted, उसके बाद जो है हम देखेंगे मुस्लिम लीग की डिमांड क्या है. For example, after the independence, after the freedom is granted to India, then the plebiscite means kind of elections, ना आपको किस तरफ जाना है, उस तरफ या इस तरफ. So plebiscite will be held in the Muslim majority areas, of northwest frontier provinces and Bengal. A plebiscite will be held in these Muslim majority areas, and in that plebiscite, all the persons, I am using the word all the inhabitants of those areas will participate in the elections, and they will decide their future, whether they want a separate sovereign state or whether they want to remain within India. So all the persons living in those areas will participate in that plebiscite. समझ आ रहा है आपको? और then अगर वो डिसाइड करते हैं भाई, अगर if a majority of that population decides to go with a separate nation, decides to form a separate sovereign nation, then a partition will be, in areas को जो है वो partition किया जाएगा, तो accordingly जो है they will go to the Pakistan. I mean to say is that it virtually endorsed the demand of this Muhammad Ali Jinnah. Okay, then after it is given, if it happens, ये तो अभी पेपर में ही था, अभी तो कुछ practical नहीं होना, it was just a proposal, it failed. So if it is given, then we will come and we will make arrangement over defense, we will make arrangement over communications, we will make arrangement over this external relations, etc. So what kind of relations will prevail, and what kind of what kind of resources को कैसे हम distribute वगैरह करेंगे. So this was a formula which was put forward by C. Raja Gopalachari. But this formula was objected by this Muhammad Ali Jinnah on one point, that if you want to have this plebiscite, why you are involving all the people of these northwest frontier provinces and Bengal in the elections? The election must be held, no doubt, but the persons who will participate in those elections, those will be only the Muslims. खाली Muslim population ही वहाँ पे participate करेंगे elections में. Not every inhabitant of those of those countries. Okay. So that's how this C. Raja Gopalachari failed to break this deadlock. Okay. So then once again, when this Raja Gopalachari formula failed, once again they come forward and they once again tried. This time the lead was taken by the Indian National Congress leader Bahubali Desai, and from the Muslim League it was Liaquat Ali Khan. So Liaquat Ali Khan and Desai, and Bahubali Desai, they come to an agreement. That agreement is known as Desai Liaquat Pact. Desai Liaquat Pact. Okay. So I'm talking about 1943. So under this Desai Liaquat Pact, they also wanted to break this deadlock. How? Bahubali Desai, he told that at the central legislature, there will be equal participation by the Indian National Congress members and the Muslim League members. 50% जो population, 50% जो members होंगे central legislature में, वो किसके होंगे? Muslim League के. और 50% जो membership होगी central legislature में, वो किसकी होगी? वो होगी Indian National Congress की. Okay. इसके अलावा जो है हम क्या करेंगे? हम 20% seats जो है वो reserve रखेंगे minorities के लिए. तो this was something we should try to appease, we should try to bring this Muhammad Ali Jinnah back from his adamancy. But Muhammad Ali Jinnah, he rejected that proposal as well. Okay, he rejected that proposal as well. So in fact, after this Rajagopalachari formula, after this Bahubali Desai and Liaquat Pact, then again the Governor General, this Governor General was Lord Wavell. Lord Wavell was newly appointed Governor General, who was appointed by the Conservative government led in Britain by Winston Churchill. This Lord Wavell, he now tried to break this deadlock. He now tried to bring a form of unity between the Muslim League and the Indian National Congress, to do something which will be acceptable to every section of the Indian society. What this Lord Wavell did, he put forward his own plan, that is known as the Wavell Plan. So this is, I'm talking about 1945. Okay. So Wavell Plan of 1945, what he did during those days, the various members of Indian National Congress, they were facing the imprisonment. They were arrested due to their participation in the Quit India movement. So this Lord Wavell, he released all the important leaders of the Indian National Congress, and he convened a conference of those members at a place called Shimla. Okay, so their conference was held in 1945. That conference was the Shimla Conference. So Shimla Conference was convened by Lord Wavell, when every important leader from the Muslim League, from the Indian National Congress, from the Hindu Mahasabha, from the other, from the depressed classes as well, he convened them, he called them at a place called Shimla in order to form a future constitutional mechanism of India, in order to form a future, in order to break this deadlock, and in order to form a kind of government जो इंडिया में अब चलेगी. What kind of government he wanted to have in India, that was provided in this, in this Wavell Plan. All right, in this Wavell Plan. Now what did he provided at this plan? He provided, he after consultation with every important leader of India during those days, there were differences with the Muslim League and the Indian National Congress, but he, despite those differences and conflicts, he comes forward and gives his own plan, that is known as Wavell Plan. अब इसमें ये क्या कहता है? ये कहते हैं भाई, मेरा जो काउंसिल होता है ना, गवर्नर जनरल्स का एग्जीक्यूटिव काउंसिल, that means all the members of the Governor General's Executive Councils will be Indians. All the members of Governor General's Executive Council will be Indians, except two persons. One was Governor General himself, वो ब्रिटिशर ही रहेगा, और Commander in Chief. ये दो ऑफिसर्स जो है ये ब्रिटिशर्स रहेंगे, एंड Commander in Chief एंड Governor General. तो बाकी सारे मेंबर्स जो है वो इंडियंस होंगे. It was the first provision under this Wavell Plan. Right? With the exception of Commander in Chief and the Governor General himself. Then he is told, he is telling that in that Viceroy's Council there will be the equal representation. Second point will be the equal representation. There will be the equal representation of the caste Hindus. याद रखना ये term, caste Hindus. There will be the equal representation of caste Hindus and the Muslims in that council. Equal representation of caste Hindus and Muslims in that council. Okay, so by that he wanted actually to reconstitute, to reconstruct to reconstruct his council, to reconstruct the Viceroy's executive council, in order to give more powers to the Indians. Okay, he's again saying that council, that executive council which will be formulated, that will also work. अच्छा ये क्या होता है इक्वल रिप्रेजेंटेशन कास्ट हिंदूज एंड मुस्लिम लीग के बीच में ये होता है कि मतलब डिप्रेस्ड क्लासेस को तो अलग रिप्रेजेंटेशन मिल रही थी ना अंडर द रिजर्व्ड जो भी उनके लिए सीट्स वगैरह रखी थी, यहाँ पे कास्ट हिंदूज का मतलब होता है एक्सेप्ट डिप्रेस्ड क्लासेस, एक्सेप्ट डिप्रेस्ड क्लासेस। ओके, तो उनको अलग से रिप्रेजेंटेशन मिलेगी। नाउ सी, so that Viceroy's executive council, that will also work as an interim government, that will also work as an interim government, गवर्नमेंट वगैरह जो है वही चलाएंगे जब तक इलेक्शन वगैरह नहीं होंगे। that will also work as an interim government, that Viceroy's executive council. Okay, then again he is saying that veto power will remain with the Governor General, and he will exercise that veto with the advice of the ministers. Okay, so these 4 points you have to remember about the Wavell plan, right? Now first point you have to remember that Viceroy's executive council, the reconstruction of the Viceroy's executive council was the main motive behind convening this Shimla conference, which came forward in the in the form of this Wavell plan. When you will, if you want to memorize this Wavell plan, you have to keep in mind the Viceroy's executive council which was reconstructed. Okay, and veto power that Viceroy's executive council was proposed to be the interim government mechanism as well. So in addition to that, veto power was supposed to be vested with the Governor General. अब ये भी जो है फिर चला नहीं ना, it was rejected. Why? Because यहाँ पे पहले ही जो है कंडीशन रखी थी शिमला कॉन्फ्रेंस में ही, किसने? मुस्लिम लीग ने क्या बताया? मुस्लिम लीग ने कहा भाई, वहां पे मोहम्मद अली जिन्ना ने क्या कहा वेवल को, बोले भाई वेवल जी यहाँ पे एवरी मुस्लिम मेंबर इन दैट शिमला कॉन्फ्रेंस ही विल बी रिप्रेजेंटेटिव ऑफ द मुस्लिम लीग, यानी कि मुस्लिम लीग जो है दैट इज द सोल रिप्रेजेंटेटिव ऑफ द मुस्लिम इंटरेस्ट. You have to accept that proposal. You have to accept that point. महात्मा गांधी जो है दिस इंडियन नेशनल कांग्रेस जो है उस टाइम पे जवाहरलाल नेहरू जो था, he said that how that is possible. That means if you are the sole representative of the Muslim League, so what we are doing here? We are the secular party. We are representing every community of the country. So this is not possible for us to accept either. So that is how on that basis, the insistence of Muslim League to be the sole representative of the Muslims, on that basis this Wavell plan also failed. Alright, so this Wavell plan also failed. Then, when this Wavell plan also failed, that means the deadlock continues, right? Deadlock continues. So now what you have to remember, the Second World War, the Second World War came to an end in 1945. With the end of the Second World War, which was won by the Allies, including USA, including England, including France, including Russia, there was a huge change in the world. There was a change in the balance of power. England, which was previously the great power in the world, was no more a power. On the ruins of the Second World War, there was the USA and the USSR, which now emerged as the superpowers, which now emerged as the great powers. There was no place for England now, because England's resources were drained due to the Second World War. England's economy got weakened due to the Second World War. So this Second World War had the impact upon the Indian freedom movement as well. The Second World War, up to a great extent, facilitated the freedom of India. How? Because the Allies now, the USA and the USSR, both were in favor of the Indian independence. Both were favoring the freedom for India. Now how England could move away from that kind of vision, that kind of perspective which the world powers were having. So that kind of situation, along with the other events as well. For example, at that time there were the activities like the activities which were carried on by the Indian National Army members. How the Britishers faced the humiliation in the form of rebellion by the army that is known as Indian National Army. इसके लिए हम separate से पढ़ेंगे. Then how they faced the mutiny called the Rhine Mutiny in 1946. Royal Indian Navy, the mutiny by the Royal Indian Navy in 1946. How there was the huge hue and cry regarding the INI trials. जब उनको बोला गया था we will conduct trials of hundreds of Indian National Army prisoners of war. उनको जो हम imprison करेंगे, उन पे trials वगैरह कोर्ट केस चलाया जाएगा. All the Indian nationalists, common masses, peasants, everyone came forward. All the members of the Muslim League, all the members of the Communist Party of India, all the members of the INC, they supported the cause of Indian National Army and its members. So there was the atmosphere which was completely changed due to these activities and due to the activities of Second World War. Due to all these happenings, now the Britishers, they had in the heart of their hearts, they had agreed for the transfer of power. They had agreed for the transfer of power. That means freedom, right? They had agreed now to transfer the power to the Indian hands. So it was in line with this transfer of power that the Britishers once again in 1946 they sent a mission to India. That mission is known as Cabinet Mission Plan.